The first bullet shattered the communications tower at 3:47 a.m. Maya Torres hadn't fired a combat rifle in 26 months. Tonight she would fire over 200 rounds, and every single one would count. She was only visiting her twin sister at Forward Operating Base Sentinel-9, a frozen outpost in the Eastern European mountains. 72 hours of leave. A simple family reunion. But when 60 armed fighters surrounded the base and cut all communications, Maya discovered something terrifying. Her sister's unit was outnumbered, outgunned, and completely alone. Before you continue this incredible story, please subscribe to our channel and follow until the end. Comment your city below. I want to see how far this story travels. Maya Torres pressed her forehead against the cold transport window and watched the dead forest pass by. Bare trees stood like skeletal fingers reaching toward a gray sky. Snow had been falling for 3 days straight, and the road ahead had disappeared under a blanket of white that seemed to swallow everything. "Outpost Sentinel-9 15 minutes out," the driver announced. His name tag read Kowalski. He couldn't have been older than 23, and his hands gripped the steering wheel like he expected the vehicle to explode at any moment. Maya didn't respond. She was too busy thinking about the last time she'd seen her sister. 18 months ago. A video call that lasted 12 minutes before Elena's connection cut out. Before that, a brief meeting at their mother's funeral, where neither of them had known what to say. "You're the captain's sister, right?" Kowalski asked, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. "The twin?" "That's right. I've heard stories about you two. They say you once made a simultaneous kill shot at 800 meters. Different positions, same target, same exact moment." Maya closed her eyes. Stories get bigger in the retelling. "Is it true you held the record for longest confirmed kill in the Southern Theater?" "That was a long time ago." Kowalski was quiet for a moment. "Then, what made you stop?" Maya opened her eyes and stared at the young driver. He had no idea what he was asking. He had no idea about the nightmares, the shaking hands, the way certain sounds could transport her back to places she never wanted to revisit. He had no idea about the day she'd looked through her scope and seen a child standing next to her target, a child who would have died if her bullet had been 3 inches to the left. "I got tired," she said simply. The base appeared through the falling snow like a fortress from another century. Concrete walls scarred by mortar fire, guard towers that looked ready to collapse, razor wire strung between sandbag positions. This wasn't a military installation. It was a statement of stubborn survival. The gate guard checked Maya's civilian ID 3 times. His name tag read Jensen, and he had the nervous energy of someone who'd been on edge for too long. "Captain Torres isn't expecting visitors," he said, suspicious. "She's my sister." Jensen's expression shifted. Recognition flickered across his face. "The twin. I've heard about you. Everyone has stories. Wait here." Maya waited in the cold, her duffel bag at her feet. Civilian clothes inside, a few books, nothing that suggested she'd once been one of the deadliest snipers in the entire military. Nothing that revealed the truth about who she really was. 5 minutes later, Captain Elena Torres emerged from the operations building. Maya's breath caught in her throat. Her sister had changed. Elena had always been lean, but now she looked carved from stone. Her cheekbones were sharper, her eyes harder. She wore fatigues that had been washed so many times the camouflage pattern was barely visible. But she moved the same way, weight forward, always ready, never fully at rest. They had the same ash blonde hair, the same gray-green eyes, the same jawline that tightened when they were angry. Looking at Elena was like looking into a mirror that showed a different version of herself, the version that hadn't walked away. Elena stopped 3 feet away. "You shouldn't be here." 72-hour leave. I can visit family. This isn't a vacation resort, Maya. I know exactly what it is. Maya picked up her duffel bag. I trained half the people who designed bases like this. Elena's jaw tightened. That familiar tell. She was angry, but she knew she couldn't win this argument. 72 hours. Then you're on the first transport out. No exceptions. Understood. They walked through the base in silence. Maya cataloged everything automatically: defensive positions, sight lines, weak points in the perimeter. Old habits never really died. They just waited for moments like this to resurface. She noticed the soldiers watching them. Double takes. Whispers. The legend of the Torres twins had clearly reached this frozen outpost. Elena's quarters were small and sparse. A cot, a footlocker, a desk covered in topographical maps and weather reports. A single photograph sat on the desk, the two of them at 16, holding their father's hunting rifles, grinning like they'd just discovered they could fly. Maya picked up the photograph. "You kept this." "Dad would have wanted me to." "Dad's been dead for 8 years. Elena didn't respond. She pulled 2 bottles of water from a small cooler and handed one to Maya. "You've lost weight." "So have you." "When's the last time a supply convoy got through?" 3 weeks ago. Command keeps promising reinforcements. We keep adjusting to reality." "How many in your unit?" 34, down from 48. Maya unscrewed her water bottle slowly. "Combat losses. Medical evacuations. Rotations that never got replaced. One idiot who shot himself cleaning his weapon." Elena moved to the window and stared out at the falling snow. "No combat deaths in 6 months. This is supposed to be a quiet sector. Quiet sectors have a way of getting loud without warning." Elena turned. "Is that why you came? Your famous instincts telling you something?" Maya met her sister's eyes. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence between them was heavy with everything they'd never said. The arguments, the resentments, the years of distance that had grown between 2 people who used to share everything. "I came because I'm going crazy behind a desk," Maya finally admitted. "Because I keep having nightmares about places like this. Because I wake up at 3 in the morning and my hands won't stop shaking." "Maya, because you're my sister, and I haven't seen you in 18 months. And I was afraid if I didn't come now, I might never come at all." Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then she walked to Maya and put a hand on her shoulder. The touch was brief, but it said more than words could. "How long since you fired a weapon?" Elena asked. 8 months. Qualification range." "That's too long." "I know. There's a range on the east side. We could go tonight, after lights out." Maya looked at her sister. "You want to shoot with me?" "I want to see if you've still got it, and honestly..." Elena's expression softened just slightly. "I could use a few hours of pretending things are normal." The range was cold and quiet. Snow had stopped falling temporarily, leaving the night crystalline and sharp. Elena set up targets at varying distances, while Maya familiarized herself with the rifle, a bolt-action system with a suppressor, and a scope that had been modified so many times it barely resembled anything factory-made. "This is yours," Maya asked, feeling the weight settle into her hands. "Built it myself. 3 years of adjustments. The stock is different than standard. I customized it for my shoulder. The trigger pull has been reduced by half." Maya shouldered the weapon, found the balance point. It felt right. It felt like coming home. 300 meters, Elena called out. "Wind from the northwest 8 knots. Temperature -12. Maya settled into position. The movements were automatic, breathing slowed, heart rate dropped. The constant noise in her head went silent. There was only the scope, the target, the eternal present of the shot. She squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked. 300 meters away, the target sprouted a whole dead center. Again, Elena said. 500. They worked through distances, through wind calculations, through the mathematics of trajectory and drift. Maya felt the rust shake loose, felt the old precision return. The muscle memory was still there, buried under 26 months of reports and qualification ranges and slow, grinding mediocrity. "You're pulling slightly left," Elena observed. "Compensating for a gun you used to shoot. The Macmillan. I haven't touched it in 2 years. Your body remembers. Bodies remember everything. That's the problem." Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she stepped to the line beside her sister. 750 meters. That cluster at the far berm. Together. Let's see if we've still got it. They fired simultaneously, 2 impacts close enough to overlap. Maya lowered her rifle. "You've gotten better." "I've had practice." Elena ejected her magazine and began breaking down the weapon for cleaning. "You remember what Dad used to say? A sniper's greatest weapon isn't the rifle, it's time." He was wrong. Maya started cleaning her own weapon. "Time only matters if you're alive to use it." That's what I've learned out here. Urban warfare teaches you to shoot fast or die slow. They cleaned their weapons in comfortable silence. The wind picked up, carrying fresh snow across the range. Maya looked out at the darkness beyond the perimeter, the abandoned buildings, the skeletal ruins of what had once been a small city. "What happened to the city?" she asked. "Evacuated 3 years ago. Population moved to refugee camps further west. The buildings are still structurally sound, but nobody lives there anymore. We monitor it for movement scavengers, mostly sometimes scouts. We don't engage unless engaged. And the enemy, intel says they pulled back 50 kilometers east. This is just a monitoring post now." Elena paused. "Officially." "But you don't believe that." "I believe what I can verify, and I can't verify anything from 50 kilometers away." Maya studied the darkness. Something felt wrong. She couldn't explain it, couldn't point to any specific evidence, but the sensation was there. A prickling at the base of her skull, a tightness in her chest. "Something's coming," she said quietly. Elena didn't argue, didn't ask for proof. She just nodded. "I know." Maya couldn't sleep. The cot was fine. She'd slept on worse, but her mind wouldn't stop racing. She kept thinking about the city ruins, the weak points in the perimeter, the way the guards at the gate had looked tired and stretched thin. At 200, she gave up on sleep and walked through the base. Most soldiers were in their bunks, but a few night shift personnel nodded at her as she passed. Her civilian badge got a few suspicious looks, but nobody stopped her. She found herself at the armory. The duty officer was reading by flashlight, a young woman named Rodriguez, who looked barely old enough to vote. "Can't sleep?" Rodriguez asked. "Restless?" "You're the captain's sister, the twin." "That's what everyone keeps telling me." Rodriguez smiled slightly. "Must be strange having a legend for a sibling." "She's not a legend. She's just my sister." "With respect, ma'am, that's not what the stories say." Maya moved through the armory, noting the inventory. Standard-issue rifles, a few designated marksman weapons, 3 sniper systems that looked well-maintained but old. She stopped in front of a Remington 700 with a civilian scope. "Whose is this?" she asked. "Reserve weapon. The regular shooter got medevaced 2 months ago. Nobody's qualified to replace him." Nobody's qualified for a Remington 700, Rodriguez shrugged. Nobody who's still here. We've been understaffed for months. The captain does double duty on Overwatch when she can, but she's also running the whole unit. Maya processed this. A critical weapon sitting unused because there was no one to shoot it. A base operating with half the personnel it needed. A command structure that kept promising reinforcements that never arrived. How often do you get supply runs? She asked. Supposed to be weekly. Reality is every 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes longer. Communication with headquarters, radio when the tower works, which is about 60% of the time. Satellite uplink for emergencies only. And if the radio tower goes down. Rodriguez's expression flickered. Then we're on our own until someone notices we've stopped reporting. Maya turned and found Elena standing in the armory doorway. Her sister was wearing a thermal jacket over her fatigues, and her expression was unreadable. You should be sleeping, Elena said. So should you. I do perimeter checks every 3 hours. Old habit. I remember. You did the same thing when we shared a room as kids, checking the window locks every few hours. Elena almost smiled. Dad taught us to be paranoid. Dad taught us to be prepared. There's a difference. They stood in silence for a moment. Rodriguez had suddenly found her book very interesting and was pretending not to listen. Walk with me, Elena said. They moved through the base together, past sleeping quarters and equipment lockers, past the medical station where a single medic was restocking supplies, past the motor pool where 3 vehicles sat covered in tarps. Only 3 vehicles? Maya asked. 2 more broke down last month. Parts are on order. Meaning they'll never arrive. Meaning we adapt. They reached the eastern perimeter and climbed a guard tower. The soldier on duty, a sergeant named Okonkwo, saluted Elena and made room for them on the observation platform. From here, Maya could see the entire approach from the city. Empty buildings with empty windows, streets buried under snow, a church tower that had collapsed recently, its rubble still visible even in darkness. That tower was good overwatch, she said. Was. Snow load brought it down last month. Sounded like thunder. We lost our best elevated position. What about the crane on the east side? Still functional. I use it when I need height. And that structure, Maya pointed to a skeletal tower about 300 meters southeast, just outside the perimeter. Old water tower. Abandoned. Structural integrity is questionable, but it's still standing. Offers sightlines on the entire northeastern approach. Maya studied the positions, calculating angles, distances, overlapping fields of fire. Her mind was working automatically, building a tactical picture without conscious effort. If someone wanted to hit this base, she said slowly, they'd take out communications first, then the backup generator. Then they'd attack from multiple positions northeast and southwest, using the ruins for cover. They'd pin you down with suppressing fire while their assault teams cut through the wire. Elena stared at her. That's very specific. That's what I'd do if I were attacking this position. You've been here less than 12 hours. I've been doing this for 15 years. Maya met her sister's eyes. You know I'm right. Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. I know. What are you going to do about it? What I've been doing. Training my people. Running drills. Hoping the reinforcements actually arrive this time. Elena's voice was tight with frustration. I've sent 17 requests for additional personnel. I've documented every vulnerability in this base. I've done everything by the book. And nothing changes? Nothing ever changes. Elena gripped the guard tower railing. Command looks at the reports and sees a quiet sector. They don't see the supply shortages. They don't see the equipment failures. They don't see 34 soldiers trying to do the job of 60. Maya put her hand on her sister's arm. You're doing everything you can. It's not enough. It's never enough. That's what Dad never told us. He taught us to shoot, to plan, to prepare. But he never taught us that sometimes, no matter how good you are, the world just doesn't cooperate. Elena laughed, but there was no humor in it. When did you get philosophical? 26 months behind a desk gives you a lot of time to think. They stood in silence, watching the darkness beyond the perimeter. The wind had died down, and the night was unnaturally still. Somewhere in the distance, Maya thought she heard something, a faint, mechanical sound quickly gone. Did you hear that? She asked. Elena frowned. Hear what? I don't know. Something. They both listened. The silence stretched out, heavy and complete. I don't hear anything, Elena finally said. Maybe I'm imagining it. But Maya wasn't imaging it. She knew she wasn't. Something was out there in the darkness. Something was watching. Something was waiting. Get some sleep, Elena said. I mean it this time. Whatever happens tomorrow, you'll need to be rested. What about you? I'll sleep when I'm dead. Maya looked at her sister, really looked at her for the first time since arriving. Elena was exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes. Tension in every line of her body. She was running on fumes and willpower, and she'd been doing it for months. Elena. What? I'm glad I came. Elena's expression softened. For just a moment, she looked like the sister Maya remembered, the girl who'd shared a room with her for 18 years, who'd learned to shoot beside her, who'd enlisted the same week she did. I'm glad you came too, Elena admitted, even if you shouldn't be here. Especially because I shouldn't be here. They climbed down from the guard tower and walked back toward Elena's quarters. The base was quiet. Most of the soldiers were sleeping, preparing for another day of waiting and watching. At the door to Elena's quarters, Maya paused. You remember the pact we made when we were 12? Elena's eyes flickered. If one of us is shooting, the other is watching her back. Even now. Maya nodded. Then I'll see you in the morning. She walked to her temporary quarters, a small room near the medical station that had been hastily cleared for her. She lay down on the cot and stared at the ceiling, listening to the silence of the base. Something was wrong. She could feel it in her bones. The same instinct that had kept her alive through 3 combat deployments was screaming at her now. Something was coming. And when it arrived, nothing would ever be the same. Maya closed her eyes and tried to sleep. But sleep wouldn't come. She could only lie there in the darkness, waiting for the storm that she knew was approaching. The attack would come at 0347 hours. In less than 4 hours, everything would change. And Maya Torres, former sniper, current desk jockey sister, and twin, would become someone she hadn't been in 26 months. She would become a killer again. Chapter 10. The night stretched on, endless and silent. Maya drifted in and out of consciousness, never fully asleep, never fully awake. Her dreams were fragmented images of snow and blood, of rifles and targets, of her father's voice telling her to breathe, squeeze, follow through. At 03:15, she gave up completely. She dressed in the darkness, pulling on her civilian jacket over the thermal layers she'd worn to bed. Her boots were cold, the leather stiff from the temperature. She stepped outside into the frozen air. The base was quiet, but not silent. Generators hummed. Distant voices carried on the wind. Somewhere a radio crackled with static. Maya walked to Elena's quarters. The light was off, but she knew her sister wasn't sleeping. She knocked once, softly. The door opened immediately. Elena was fully dressed, her tactical vest already on her rifle, within arm's reach. You feel it too, Maya said. I've felt it for 3 days. Tonight is different. How? I don't know. Just different. They stood in the doorway, two sisters who had spent their lives learning to trust their instincts. Two women who had survived countless situations by listening to that voice in the back of their minds. What do we do? Maya asked. We wait, we watch, and when it happens... The explosion cut her off. The communications tower disintegrated in a cascade of sparks and twisted metal. The blast wave hit 3 seconds later, shattering windows across the base. Alarms began screaming. Lights flickered, died, came back. Died again. A second explosion, the backup generator. Darkness swallowed the base. It's happening, Elena said, her voice calm, despite the chaos erupting around them. They're hitting us. Maya's training kicked in automatically. She grabbed a rifle from Elena's weapon rack, not the customized one, just a standard assault rifle that felt alien in her hands. How many? She demanded. I don't know. Multiple positions. Coordinated strike on infrastructure. Elena was already moving, grabbing her equipment. This isn't a probe. This is a kill shot, Maya finished. They're trying to take the whole base. Gunfire erupted from the northern perimeter, then the eastern, then the southwestern. Muzzle flashes lit up the darkness like angry fireflies. They were surrounded. Elena keyed her radio. All units, this is Torres. Defensive positions. Repeat, all units to defensive positions. This is not a drill. Static answered her. Comms are down, she said. We're on our own. Maya met her sister's eyes. In that moment, everything between them, the years of distance, the unspoken resentments, the complicated history, fell away. There was only the mission. There was only survival. Where do you need me? Maya asked. The water tower, southeast perimeter. You'll have sight lines on the entire northeastern approach. That's outside the wire. I'll be cut off. You'll be effective. That's what matters. They stared at each other for 3 seconds. 3 seconds that felt like years. Don't die, Elena said. You neither. Then they moved in opposite directions into the snow, into the gunfire, into the chaos of a battle that had just begun. Maya ran through the chaos. Bullets snapped past her head close enough to feel the heat. She didn't think. She just moved. A soldier stumbled out of the barracks, half-dressed, rifle in hand. He was young, maybe 20, and his eyes were wild with confusion. "Where's the captain?" he shouted. "East side, get to your position." "I don't know where." "Follow the gunfire. Find cover. Shoot anything that's not wearing our uniform." She didn't wait for his response. There was no time. The base was erupting around her, and every second she wasted was a second closer to dying. The water tower loomed ahead, a skeletal structure of rust and frozen metal. 300 meters from the perimeter. Outside the wire, completely exposed. Elena had been right. This position would be effective. It would also be suicide. Maya hit the ladder at a dead sprint, climbing hand over hand while rounds sparked off the metal around her. Her lungs burned. The cold air felt like razor blades in her throat. 20 feet up. 30. 40. A bullet punched through the ladder rung 6 inches from her left hand. She kept climbing. At the top, she rolled onto the platform and immediately took position. The catwalk was rusted, the partial roof offering minimal cover. But from here she could see everything, the entire northeastern approach, the ruins of the abandoned city, the muzzle flashes dotting the darkness like angry stars. She shouldered the rifle and found her first target through the scope. An enemy sniper in a 4th-floor window approximately 400 meters out. He was good professional positioning, minimal exposure, but he'd made one mistake. He'd silhouetted himself against the glow of a fire burning somewhere behind him. Maya controlled her breathing, felt her heart rate slow. The scope's reticle settled on center mass. She squeezed the trigger. The enemy sniper jerked backward and disappeared from the window. One down. Immediately, fire converged on her position. Bullets chewed through the catwalk where she'd been lying half a second earlier. Maya rolled left, found new cover behind a support beam, and reacquired targets. This was the old rhythm, the ancient dance. She'd forgotten how much she'd missed it. Her radio crackled. Static, then. Elena's voice cutting through. "Tower, this is Crane. Do you copy? Copy, Crane. I'm in position. I count 7 elevated positions in the ruins. Maybe more. They've got us pinned from multiple angles. I see them. I'm working it." Maya found her second target, a machine gun crew setting up in a blown-out storefront. She fired 3 times in rapid succession. The gunner dropped. The assistant gunner reached for the weapon. She dropped him too. The third man tried to run. He made it 4 steps. "Tower, be advised, we've got movement at the northern gate. They're trying to breach." "How many of them? 15, maybe 20. Jensen's team is holding, but they're taking casualties." Maya swung her scope north. The gate was partially visible from her position, a chaos of muzzle flashes and tracer rounds and bodies moving in the darkness. She couldn't get a clear shot. Too many friendlies in the mix. "I can't support from this angle. The gate is blocked by the motor pool." "Understood. Focus on the eastern approach. I'll handle the north." Maya went back to work. Target acquisition. Breath control. Squeeze. Target acquisition. Breath control. Squeeze. The rifle grew hot in her hands despite the cold. Empty casings piled at her feet, steaming in the frozen air. She'd lost count of shots fired when her radio crackled again. "Tower, this is Jensen. Captain Torres is hit." Maya's blood turned to ice. "Say again." "She's down. Took a round in the leg. We're pulling her back to the medical station." "How bad?" Static. Then Jensen's voice strained. "I don't know. There's a lot of blood." Maya forced herself to focus. Elena was wounded, but Elena was alive. Right now, that had to be enough. Right now, the only thing that mattered was holding this position. "Jensen, who's got command of the defense. Major Reeves is at the command post. He's coordinating. Tell him I need fire support on the eastern ruins. Grid reference," Maya calculated quickly, Alpha 7 through Alpha 12. Heavy concentration. "Ma'am, I'm not sure he'll—" "Tell him. Now." She went back to shooting. Another target. Another. Another. Her shoulder was starting to ache from the recoil. Her fingers were going numb from the cold. But she kept firing, kept hunting, kept killing. A mortar round exploded 50 meters from the water tower. The shockwave nearly knocked her off the platform. Her ears rang. Dust and debris filled the air. Another mortar round closer this time. They were walking fire toward her position. Maya grabbed her rifle and moved to the opposite side of the platform. The structure groaned beneath her old metal, protesting the stress. She didn't have much time. Another hit or two, and this whole tower would come down. She found the mortar team through her scope. 600 meters out, partially concealed behind a collapsed wall. She could see the tube, could see the loaders preparing the next round. 600 meters. Wind from the northeast. Temperature dropping. She did the math in her head, adjusted her aim, and fired. The loader dropped. She fired again. The assistant loader dropped. The third man, the one holding the next round, tried to run. Her bullet caught him in the back. The mortar fell silent. "Tower, this is Reeves." A new voice on the radio. Older. Harder. "Jensen says you're requesting fire support." "Sir, I've got multiple enemy positions in the eastern ruins. Grid reference Alpha 7 through 12. If you can suppress those positions, I can—" Who the hell is this? You're not in my chain of command. My name is Maya Torres. I'm Captain Torres's sister. The twin, the one who's supposed to be a civilian. Sir, with respect. Right now, I'm the only thing between you and a concentrated assault from the east. If you want to argue about paperwork, we can do that later. Right now, I need fire support. Silence. Maya kept scanning for targets while she waited. Found one a spotter directing fire from a rooftop. She dropped him. Fire support in 30 seconds, Reeves finally said. Make them count. Yes, sir. 30 seconds later, the base's remaining weapons opened up on the eastern positions. It wasn't much, a few heavy machine guns, a couple of grenade launchers, but it was enough. The enemy fire slackened. Attackers dove for cover. Maya used the window to pick off targets of opportunity. An officer directing troops. A communications specialist hunched over a radio. A sniper trying to relocate to a better position. Then her radio crackled again, and the voice she heard made her heart stop. Tower, this is Crane. Elena, I thought you were... I'm fine. It's a through and through. The medic patched me up. You should be in the medical station. Shut up and listen. I've got eyes on something bad. Really bad. Maya's grip tightened on her rifle. What do you see? Northeast quadrant, deep in the ruins. They've got vehicles. 6, maybe 8. Painted white for winter camouflage. They're staging for an armored assault. Maya swung her scope toward the position Elena described. For a moment she saw nothing, just empty buildings and snow. Then movement caught her eye. A flash of white against white, too coordinated to be random. She pushed her magnification higher and felt her stomach drop. Armored vehicles. Light armor, but armor nonetheless. More than enough to punch through the base's defenses. I see them, she transmitted. They're getting ready to move. The base doesn't have the weapons to stop them. If those vehicles reach the perimeter, it's over. Maya calculated distances, angles, possibilities. The lead vehicle, probably the command vehicle, sat slightly forward from the rest. 850 meters out, partially obscured by rubble. I can't make that shot, she said. Too far, too much wind, too much interference. Neither can I. Not from my angle. Silence on the radio. Maya could hear Elena thinking, could almost feel her sister's mind working through the problem. There's one option, Elena finally said. We fire together. Same target, different vectors. One of us hits. Maya's breath caught. This was what their father had taught them. Synchronized fire. Perfect timing. Perfect trust. They'd practiced it 1,000 times as kids, but never at this distance. Never under these conditions. Elena, that's a prayer shot. Even if we fire together, do you have a better idea? Maya didn't answer. She didn't have to. On my mark, Elena said. I'll count down. We fire at the exact same instant. Maya settled deeper into position. The platform swayed slightly in the wind, a liability for most shooters, but she'd learned to use it. Time her shot for the moment of stability between gusts. She found the command vehicle in her scope. 850 meters. Wind from the northeast at 12 knots, temperature -15 and dropping. She'd need to aim high and left. How high? How left? She was guessing. They both were. Fire in 3. Elena's voice came through the radio. 2, 1, now. Maya squeezed the trigger at the exact instant her sister did. 850 meters away, she watched through her scope. For a fraction of a second, she thought they'd missed. The vehicle sat, unchanged, untouched. Then the driver's window shattered. The vehicle lurched to a stop. Hit, Elena transmitted. Good shot. Which one of us? Does it matter? The enemy formation hesitated. That hesitation was everything. Reeves's anti-armor team engaged, taking out the second vehicle with a well-placed rocket. Then the third. The assault began to fall apart, but the enemy wasn't finished. "Tower, be advised, they're dismounting. Infantry assault. They're coming straight at us." Maya saw them through her scope. Dozens of figures pouring from the ruins, running toward the perimeter. Some fell to defensive fire. The rest kept coming. This wasn't tactics anymore. This was desperation. Her rifle went dry. She dropped the magazine, reached for a reload. Nothing. "Crane, I'm out of ammunition." "Hold position. I'll bring you more." "Negative. You're too exposed." "I'm already moving." Maya grabbed her sidearm, a 9mm that felt like a toy after the rifle, and scanned for immediate threats. The enemy assault had reached the wire. She could hear cutting tools working through the fence, could hear screaming and gunfire and the terrible sounds of close combat. Then she saw Elena. Her sister was running across open ground carrying a heavy pack of magazines. Bullets kicked up snow all around her. She was limping the leg wound, slowing her down, but she wasn't stopping. An enemy soldier appeared around a corner, rifle raised. "Elena, on your left." Elena didn't break stride. She dropped the pack, drew her sidearm, and put 2 rounds center mass before the soldier could fire. Then she grabbed the pack again and kept running. Maya couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only watch as her wounded sister covered the last 50 meters to the water tower base, hit the ladder, and started climbing. "You're insane," Maya transmitted. Elena's voice was ragged with exertion. "Probably." She reached the platform 30 seconds later, breathing hard, and tossed the pack to Maya. Inside were 40 loaded magazines. "Make them count," Elena said. "You should go back. Your leg... My leg is fine." Elena pulled out her own rifle. She'd somehow managed to carry it along with the ammunition and took position beside Maya. "Besides, I didn't come all this way to leave you alone." They looked at each other for one moment. Sisters, twins, 2 halves of something that had never really been divided. Then they turned together to face the assault. The next 15 minutes were the longest of Maya's life. Enemy fighters reached the wire, cutting through with bolt cutters pouring through gaps in the defense. Hand-to-hand fighting broke out at multiple points along the perimeter. The radio was chaos, screaming gunfire, fragmentary reports of positions overrun and positions held. Maya and Elena worked the field together. 2 rifles, 2 minds, 1 purpose. They created kill zones, funneling enemies into overlapping fields of fire. They protected friendly positions, suppressing attackers who had pinned down defensive teams. They called targets to each other in a shorthand that needed no explanation. "Left window, 4th floor. Got it. Machine gun rooftop, 2 o'clock. Suppressing. Jensen's team is pinned at the north gate. 3 shooters in the ruins behind them. I see them, taking the shot." They'd done this 1,000 times before. In training. In competition. In the hunting trips their father had organized when they were teenagers. But never like this. Never with lives on the line. Never with everything depending on them. The fighting reached a crescendo. Brutal, close, desperate. Maya's hands were shaking not from fear, but from the cold and the recoil and the sheer physical effort of firing round after round after round. Elena was struggling too. Her leg wound had opened up again, blood seeping through the field dressing. Her face was pale, her movements slower than they should be. "Elena, you need to stop." "After." "You're bleeding out." "After." There was no point arguing. Maya knew that tone, had known it since they were children. Elena wasn't going to stop until this was over, one way or another. A new voice came over the radio. "Jensen, they're pulling back. Northeast sector, the enemy is withdrawing. Maya swept her scope across the battlefield. He was right. The enemy assault was faltering. Figures were retreating toward the ruins, abandoning positions, leaving their dead behind. It's a fake, Elena said immediately. They're regrouping for something else. How do you know? Because that's what I would do. Pull back, let the defenders relax, then hit them with everything that's left. Maya trusted her sister's instinct. She kept scanning, kept hunting, kept watching for the next threat. It came 3 minutes later. Fresh fighters emerged from the far side of the ruins, not retreating, advancing, moving with the discipline of troops who'd been held in reserve, at least 20 of them, maybe more. Crane, I've got reinforcements. East side coming in fast. I see them. Elena's voice was grim. That's their final push. Everything they've got left. Maya calculated the numbers. 20 fresh fighters against a defense that was battered, bleeding, running low on everything. The odds weren't good. We need to break their momentum, she said. If they reach the perimeter with that kind of force, I know. Elena was scanning through her scope. There, the one in front. He's directing the others. Take him out and they lose coordination. Maya found the target. 600 meters, running toward the base with a radio in one hand and a rifle in the other. A commander. A leader. She fired. The commander dropped. The assault wavered, but only for a moment. Another fighter grabbed the radio, took over command. The advance continued. Elena fired. The new commander fell. A third fighter stepped up. They were dealing with professionals. Well-trained, well-organized, prepared to take casualties. Every time Maya and Elena killed a leader, another one appeared. We can't keep doing this, Maya said. We need to break the whole formation. How? Maya's mind raced through options. Mortar fire, machine guns, concentrated defensive effort, but the base was too damaged, too depleted, too focused on holding the positions that were already under attack. Then she saw it. A fuel depot near the ruins, 50 meters ahead of the advancing enemy. Civilian infrastructure probably abandoned for years, but the tanks would still hold something. Fuel, chemicals, something that would burn. The fuel depot, she said, northeast of their position. If we hit those tanks, that's civilian infrastructure. There's nothing there, Elena. The city's been abandoned for 3 years, but those tanks are full of something, and if we set them off... Elena understood. It'll catch the whole formation. It'll give the defense time to regroup. Elena was quiet for a moment. Then, take the shot. I'll cover you. Maya aimed at the fuel depot. The tanks were old, rusted, barely visible in the pre-dawn darkness. 650 meters. Wind shifting. Temperature still dropping. She took a breath. Let it out slowly. Squeezed the trigger. The first tank didn't explode. It just ruptured. Liquid sprayed out in a wide arc. She fired again. Second tank. More liquid. Elena fired. Her incendiary round caught the spreading fuel and ignited it. The explosion was massive. Fire erupted across the northeastern approach, catching the advancing formation in a wall of flame. Men scattered. The assault broke apart. Survivors ran back toward the ruins, abandoning their attack. For a moment there was near silence. Then slowly the defensive fire slackened. The enemy positions in the ruins went quiet. The attack was over. Maya lowered her rifle and looked at her sister. Elena was slumped against the platform railing, her face gray with pain and exhaustion. The bandage on her leg was soaked through with blood. Elena, I'm okay. You're not okay. You need a medic. After. Elena's eyes were closed, but she was smiling. The same smile she'd worn when they were kids after winning a shooting competition or finishing a difficult hunt. "We did it, Maya. We're not done yet." "No, but we did this part." Elena opened her eyes and looked at her sister. "Thanks for visiting." Maya laughed. The sound was slightly hysterical, completely inappropriate, and absolutely genuine. "Best family reunion ever," she said. In the distance, the first light of dawn was beginning to break over the mountains. The base was still standing. The enemy was retreating. Against all odds, they'd survived. But Maya knew the night wasn't really over. The aftermath was coming, the counting of casualties, the assessment of damage, the questions about how a civilian had ended up fighting in a combat zone. And somewhere in the ruins, the surviving enemy forces were regrouping, planning their next move. This battle was over. But the war wasn't finished yet. The silence lasted exactly 4 minutes. Maya was helping Elena down the water tower ladder when the first shot cracked through the air. It missed her head by inches, sparking off the metal rung above her. "Sniper!" she shouted, pressing herself against the tower structure. Elena froze on the ladder, her wounded leg trembling with effort. "Where? I don't know. Somewhere in the ruins. They've got overwatch on our position." Another shot. This one hit the platform they'd just left, punching through the rusted metal like paper. "We're sitting ducks here," Elena said through gritted teeth. "We need to move." "You can barely walk." "Then I'll crawl. But we're not dying on this ladder." Maya made a decision. She grabbed Elena's arm and pulled her close, using her own body as a shield. "On 3, we drop the last 10 feet and run for the motor pool. Ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3. They jumped. The landing sent a spike of pain through Maya's ankles, but she kept moving. Elena stumbled, nearly fell, but Maya caught her and half carried her toward the nearest cover, a burned-out transport vehicle 20 meters away. Bullets kicked up snow behind them. 1, 2, 3. The sniper was tracking them, adjusting with each shot. They dove behind the vehicle just as a round punched through the doorframe. "He's good!" Elena gasped, clutching her leg. Blood was seeping through her fingers. "Professional." "Better than good. He almost had us twice." Maya risked a look around the edge of the vehicle. The eastern ruins were a maze of shadows and broken buildings. The sniper could be anywhere. "Tower, this is command." Reeves's voice crackled through the radio. "Report your status." "We're pinned down near the motor pool. Enemy sniper has eyes on us. We can't move." "Can you identify position?" "Negative. He's somewhere in the eastern ruins elevated. That's all I know." Static. "Then, hold position. We're sending support." "Negative, sir. Don't send anyone out here. He'll pick them off before they reach us." "Then what do you suggest?" Maya looked at Elena. Her sister was pale, breathing hard, but her eyes were still sharp, still thinking. "The sniper's focused on us," Elena said quietly. "That means he's not watching the base." "You want to use us as bait." "I want to use us as a distraction. If the base can locate his position while he's shooting at us, they can take him out." Elena nodded. "It's risky. It's insane. Do you have a better idea?" Maya didn't answer. She keyed her radio. "Command, we're going to draw the sniper's fire. When he shoots track, his muzzle flash. Grid reference Alpha Sector elevated position." "Copy that, Tower. We're ready." Maya looked at her sister. "Stay here. I'll draw him out." "Like hell you will." "Elena, you can barely stand." "I can still shoot." Elena pulled out her sidearm, checked the chamber. "Besides, he's tracking movement. One target is easier to hit than 2. There was no point arguing. Maya had learned that lesson a long time ago. "On 3, she said. "We move in opposite directions. Short bursts, keep him guessing. Copy. 1, 2, 3. Maya broke left. Elena broke right. The sniper fired immediately. The bullet hit the ground between them, splitting the difference. He was good, but not good enough to track 2 targets at once. Maya dove behind a stack of supply crates. Another shot punched through the wood 6 inches from her head. She kept moving, rolling to a new position behind a concrete barrier. "Muzzle flash," someone shouted over the radio. "Alpha 7, 4th floor, southeast window. Copy engaging." The base's remaining heavy weapons opened up on the identified position. Tracers streaked through the darkness, converging on the building. The sniper fire stopped. Maya waited, counting seconds. 10, 20, 30. "Target neutralized," the radio reported. "Sniper down." She exhaled slowly and looked for Elena. Her sister was crouched behind a fuel drum, her sidearm still raised, her face drawn with pain. "Elena, it's clear." "I heard." Elena lowered her weapon, but didn't move. "Give me a minute." Maya crossed to her sister's position. Up close, Elena looked worse than she'd thought. The blood loss was serious. Her lips were turning blue from cold and shock. "We need to get you to medical. Now. The fight's not over. It is for you. Maya, don't argue with me. For once in your life, don't argue with me." Elena stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. Maya pulled her sister's arm over her shoulder and started toward the medical station. They moved slowly, Elena limping badly, leaving a trail of blood in the snow. They'd made it halfway when the second wave hit. The explosion came from the south this time, the opposite side of the base from the original attack. A section of the perimeter wall collapsed inward, and through the gap poured a fresh force of enemy fighters. "Contact south!" someone screamed over the radio. "They're coming through the wall!" Maya's blood ran cold. The first attack had been a diversion, a costly, bloody diversion designed to draw defenders to the north and east. While they'd been fighting for their lives on one side of the base, the enemy had been positioning for the real assault on the other. "It's a pincer," Elena breathed. "They're hitting us from both sides." Maya looked around desperately. They were in the middle of the base, exposed with enemies now approaching from multiple directions. Elena couldn't fight. Maya had a rifle with maybe 20 rounds left. "Command, this is Torres. We need immediate support at our position. Grid reference, negative tower. All units are engaged. You're on your own." On their own. The words echoed in Maya's head as she watched fighters pour through the breach in the wall. 20 of them. Maybe more. She made a decision. "Elena, take this." She pressed her sidearm into her sister's hand. "Find cover. Don't move until it's over." "What are you going to do?" Maya didn't answer. She raised her rifle and started walking toward the breach. "Maya!" Elena shouted. "Maya, don't!" But Maya was already gone. She walked slowly at first, then faster. The enemy fighters saw her coming, a lone woman with a rifle walking directly toward them, and for just a moment, they hesitated. That hesitation was all she needed. Maya dropped to one knee and started firing. The first 3 shots were almost simultaneous. 3 fighters dropped. The others scattered, seeking cover, trying to return fire. But Maya was moving now, sliding right, using every piece of cover the battlefield offered. She fired and moved. Fired and moved. Her father's voice echoed in her head. "A sniper who stays still is a sniper who dies." She killed 2 more, then 3, then 4. Return fire intensified. Bullets snapped past her close enough to feel the heat. A round grazed her arm, tearing through her jacket but missing flesh. She kept moving, kept firing. "Tower, this is Jensen. I've got a team moving to support you. Hold your position." "Negative, Jensen. Stay back. They'll cut you down in the open." "We can't just— That's an order." It wasn't her order to give. She wasn't in the chain of command. But something in her voice made Jensen listen. Maya reached a defensive position, a sandbagged emplacement that had been abandoned when its crew moved to support the northern perimeter. She dropped behind the barrier and took stock. 12 enemy fighters were still advancing. She had 8 rounds left in her magazine. The math didn't work. She fired anyway. 2 more down. 6 rounds. The enemy was getting smarter now, using cover advancing in coordinated rushes. They'd figured out they were dealing with a single shooter. They knew the odds were in their favor. 4 rounds. 3 fighters down. 1 round. Maya aimed at the closest enemy, a bearded man with a rifle raised less than 30 meters away. She squeezed the trigger. Click. Empty. The bearded man smiled. Maya dropped behind cover, reaching for a magazine that wasn't there. She'd given her sidearm to Elena. She had nothing left. This was it. This was how it ended. Then she heard the rifle shot. The bearded man dropped a hole in his chest. Maya looked up. Elena was standing on top of a supply crate, Maya's sidearm in one hand, and a rifle in the other, a rifle she'd somehow acquired from God knows where. "Did you really think I was going to hide?" Elena shouted. She fired again. Another enemy fell. Jensen's team arrived moments later, hitting the enemy formation from the flank. The remaining fighters tried to retreat, but they were caught between Elena's fire from above and Jensen's team from the side. 30 seconds later, it was over. Maya lay behind her barrier, breathing hard, her heart pounding against her ribs. She could hear the sounds of the battle dying down around the base, sporadic gunfire, shouted orders, the groans of wounded men. They'd held. Somehow, impossibly, they'd held. Elena appeared beside her, limping badly, her face gray with exhaustion. "I thought I told you to find cover," Maya said. "You told me not to move. You didn't say anything about shooting." Maya laughed. It hurt, but she laughed anyway. "You're an idiot," she said. "It runs in the family." Jensen ran up his face, covered in soot and blood. "Captain Torres, ma'am, are you—" "We're fine," Elena said. "Status. The breach is secured. Enemy forces are retreating across all sectors. Major Reeves is coordinating pursuit. Tell him to let them go. We don't have the resources for a pursuit." "Yes, ma'am." Jensen hesitated. "Ma'am, the casualty count—" "Later." Elena's voice was firm despite her obvious exhaustion. "Right now I need a medic and about 12 hours of sleep." "Yes, ma'am." Jensen ran off to relay orders. Maya helped Elena to a sitting position against the sandbagged barrier. Around them, the base was slowly coming back to life. Wounded being carried to medical defensive positions, being reinforced, the 1,000 small tasks that followed any battle. "How bad is your arm?" Elena asked. Maya looked down. The bullet graze was bleeding more than she'd realized. "Not bad. Looks worse than it is." "Let me see." "You need a medic more than I do." "Let me see." Maya sighed and extended her arm. Elena examined the wound with practiced efficiency, her hands steady despite everything she'd been through. "You'll need stitches," she said. "But it's not deep. You got lucky." "We both got lucky." Elena was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different, softer. "You walked toward them," she said. "You walked toward 20 armed fighters with a half-empty rifle. I didn't have a lot of options. You could have stayed with me. We could have found cover together. They would have killed you. You could barely stand. So you decided to get yourself killed instead. Maya met her sister's eyes. I decided to buy you time. That's what we do. That's what we've always done. Elena's jaw tightened. That familiar tell, the one she'd had since childhood. But this time it wasn't anger. It was something else. Something Maya couldn't quite identify. Don't ever do that again, Elena said quietly. Do what? Make me watch you die. Maya was silent for a long moment. Then she reached out and took her sister's hand. I'm still here. This time. Every time. Maya squeezed gently. I promised you, remember, if one of us is shooting, the other is watching her back. That works both ways. Elena didn't respond. She just held Maya's hand tightly, as if afraid to let go. The medics arrived 5 minutes later. They loaded Elena onto a stretcher despite her protests and carried her toward the medical station. Maya walked beside them, refusing treatment, until her sister was taken care of. Major Reeves intercepted them halfway there. He was covered in dirt and blood, his uniform torn, his face showing every one of his 60 years. Captain Torres, he said. Thank God you're alive. Barely, sir. Reeves looked at Maya. And you, Miss Torres. Yes, sir. I've been getting reports from all over the base. Every position you engaged, every target you eliminated, every order you gave over the radio. Reeves paused. You're a civilian. You shouldn't even have been fighting. I didn't have much choice, sir. No, you didn't. Reeves studied her for a long moment. 31 confirmed kills, plus the fuel depot explosion that broke their final assault, plus tactical coordination that kept our defensive positions from being overrun. I wasn't counting, sir. I was. Reeves stepped closer. I've been in the military for 32 years. I've seen a lot of fighters. I've never seen anyone like you. Maya didn't know what to say, so she said nothing. There's going to be an investigation, Reeves continued. You engaged in combat without authorization, used military weapons, issued orders over military communications. Technically, you violated about a dozen regulations. I understand, sir. But right now, none of that matters. Reeves extended his hand. Thank you. You saved this base. Maya shook his hand. My sister saved this base. I just helped. You both did. Reeves looked at Elena, who was watching from the stretcher with something like pride in her eyes. The Torres twins. I guess the stories weren't exaggerated after all. A young soldier ran up, breathless. Sir, we've got incoming helicopters. Quick reaction force, ETA 15 minutes. Reeves's expression hardened. 6 hours late. Perfect timing. Better late than never, sir. Tell that to the 14 soldiers who died waiting for them. The soldier blanched and ran off to coordinate the landing zone. Reeves turned back to Maya and Elena. Get some rest, he said. Both of you. The hard part is over. Now comes the paperwork. He walked away, already shouting orders to prepare for the incoming helicopters. Maya watched him go, then looked down at her sister. 14 dead, Elena said quietly. It could have been everyone. That doesn't make it better. No, it doesn't. The medics started moving again, carrying Elena toward the medical station. Maya walked beside the stretcher, her wounded arm throbbing, her entire body aching with exhaustion. Behind them, the sun was beginning to rise over the mountains. The base was still standing. The enemy was in full retreat. By any military standard, this was a victory. But standing in the pale morning light surrounded by the wreckage of the night's battle, Maya didn't feel victorious. She felt tired. She felt old. She felt the weight of every shot she'd fired, every life she'd taken. And somewhere deep inside, in a place she'd tried to bury for 26 months, she felt something else. She felt alive. For the first time since she'd walked away from combat, since she'd buried herself behind a desk, and tried to pretend she was someone else, Maya Torres felt like herself again. The question was, what was she going to do about it? The helicopters touched down at 0847 hours, 6 hours, and 13 minutes after the first explosion had ripped through the communications tower. Maya watched them land from the window of the medical station, where a young medic was stitching the wound on her arm. "Hold still," the medic said. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." "Sorry." "You're not sorry. You're distracted." Maya didn't argue. She was watching the soldiers pour from the helicopters fresh troops' clean uniforms, weapons that hadn't been fired, the quick reaction force that was supposed to save them. The reinforcements that had arrived after the fighting was already over. "There," the medic said, tying off the last stitch. "Try not to tear it open in the next 24 hours. "I'll do my best." Maya stood and walked to Elena's bed. Her sister was sedated, finally sleeping after hours of surgery to repair the damage to her leg. The doctor said she'd recover fully, but it would take months of rehabilitation. Her combat days might be over. Elena wouldn't accept that. Maya knew her sister too well. The moment she woke up, she'd be planning her return to active duty. "Miss Torres." Maya turned. A colonel stood in the doorway, tall, silver-haired, with the kind of rigid posture that came from decades of military service. His uniform was immaculate, completely untouched by the chaos outside. "I'm Colonel Harrison, Theater Intelligence. I need to speak with you." "Can it wait, my sister?" "It can't wait." Harrison's voice was cold. "Come with me." Maya looked at Elena one more time, then followed the colonel out of the medical station. They walked to the operations building, which had somehow survived the night's assault with minimal damage. Inside, Harrison led her to a small room with a table, 2 chairs, and nothing else. An interrogation room. "Sit," Harrison said. Maya sat. Harrison remained standing, circling her like a predator evaluating prey. "Maya Torres, former staff sergeant, sniper qualification, 3 combat deployments, honorable discharge 26 months ago." "You've read my file." "I've read everything." Harrison stopped circling and faced her directly. "I've also read the after-action reports from last night. 31 confirmed kills, tactical coordination across multiple sectors, direct engagement with enemy forces despite civilian status. I did what was necessary. You did what was illegal." Harrison's voice sharpened. "You're not military anymore, Miss Torres. You're a civilian. You had no authorization to engage, no authority to issue orders, no right to be anywhere near this base." Maya felt anger flare in her chest. "With respect, sir, if I hadn't engaged, everyone on this base would be dead." "That's not your judgment to make." "It was my judgment to make when bullets started flying, when my sister was bleeding out on a ladder, when enemy fighters were pouring through the walls." Maya stood her chair, scraping against the floor. "What was I supposed to do? Hide in a bunker and wait to die?" Harrison didn't flinch. "You were supposed to follow protocol. Protocol would have gotten everyone killed." "That's not—" The door opened. Major Reeves entered, his face dark with anger. "Colonel Harrison, what exactly are you doing? Conducting an investigation, Major, as per regulations." "An investigation?" Reeves stepped between Harrison and Maya. "This woman saved my base. She saved my people. And you're treating her like a criminal. She violated multiple articles of— I don't give a damn about articles." Reeves's voice was barely controlled. "I lost 14 soldiers last night. 14. Without her, I would have lost 40. Maybe more. So whatever investigation you're conducting, you can conduct it somewhere else." Harrison's jaw tightened. "Major, I have authority from— You have authority from people who weren't here. People who didn't see what happened. People who are sitting in comfortable offices thousands of miles away, making judgments about situations they can't possibly understand. Reeves pointed at the door. "Get out. Now." For a long moment, the two men stared at each other. Then Harrison straightened his uniform and walked to the door. "This isn't over," he said. "There will be a full inquiry, and when that inquiry concludes, Miss Torres will answer for what she did." He left. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Reeves exhaled slowly. "I'm sorry about that. It's not your fault." "Yes, it is. I should have anticipated." He stopped himself. "Never mind. Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Elena's the one who needs attention. The doctors say she'll recover." "I know, but she won't accept desk duty. You know that, right? The moment she's mobile, she'll be pushing to return to active status." Reeves nodded slowly. "That sounds like her." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Reeves said something that surprised her. "What Harrison said about the investigation, he's not wrong. There will be an inquiry. There always is when civilians are involved in combat operations." "I understand. But I want you to know something." Reeves met her eyes. "Whatever happens in that inquiry, I'm going to tell them the truth. Every word of it. About what you did. About how many lives you saved. About what would have happened if you hadn't been here." "Thank you, sir." "Don't thank me yet. The truth doesn't always matter to the people making decisions." Reeves moved toward the door. "Get some rest. The next few days are going to be difficult." He left. Maya stood alone in the interrogation room, thinking about what lay ahead. The investigation. The questions. The bureaucratic machinery that would grind her actions into reports and assessments and recommendations. She'd known this was coming. From the moment she'd picked up that rifle, she'd known there would be consequences. But sitting here now in this cold, empty room, she realized something else. She didn't regret it. Not one shot. Not one decision. Not one moment. If she had to do it again, she would. Maya walked back to the medical station. Elena was still sleeping, her face peaceful, in a way that seemed impossible after everything they'd been through. Maya pulled a chair next to the bed and sat down, watching her sister breathe. "You scared me," she said quietly. "Running across open ground like that. Climbing that tower with a bullet wound. Standing on a supply crate and shooting when you could barely stay upright." Elena didn't respond. Of course she didn't. She was sedated. But Maya kept talking anyway. "We used to be so careful. Remember, Dad taught us to calculate every risk. Never move without a plan. Never shoot without a clear exit." She laughed softly. "Last night we threw all of that away. We just reacted." The monitor beside Elena's bed beeped steadily. Heart rate normal, blood pressure stable, all the numbers that said her sister was going to be okay. "I don't know what happens next," Maya continued. "There's going to be an investigation. Maybe charges. Maybe worse." She paused. "But I want you to know something. Whatever happens to me, I'm not sorry. I'd do it all again, every shot, every decision." She reached out and took Elena's hand. "You're my sister. You're my twin. You're the only person in the world who really knows me. And I wasn't going to let you die in that frozen hell. Not while I could still pull a trigger." Elena's fingers twitched slightly. Maya looked up and saw her sister's eyes flutter open. "How long have you been awake?" Maya asked. "Long enough." Elena's voice was hoarse, rough from the sedation. "You always did talk too much when you thought no one was listening. And you always did pretend to sleep when you wanted to eavesdrop." Elena almost smiled. "Old habits. How do you feel? Like someone shot me in the leg, twice." Elena tried to shift position and winced. "What's happening outside? I heard helicopters." Quick reaction force finally arrived. 6 hours late. Figures. Elena closed her eyes again. The casualties, 14 dead, 23 wounded. Names? Maya hesitated. You should rest. Names Maya. Maya recited them. 14 names. Soldiers she'd seen in the hours before the attack. Young men and women who had been doing their jobs following orders, believing that morning would come. When she finished, Elena was silent for a long time. Morrison, she finally asked. Alive. He took a bullet in the shoulder, but he's stable. Rodriguez, the duty officer from the armory. Alive. Minor injuries. Jensen, leading the cleanup crew. He's fine. Elena exhaled slowly. Small mercies. Elena, there's something else. Maya hesitated. There's going to be an investigation. A colonel from Theater Intelligence, Harrison, he's already started asking questions about my involvement. Elena's eyes opened. What kind of questions? The kind that lead to courts-martial or civilian charges? Maya kept her voice steady. I knew the risks when I picked up that rifle. I'm prepared to face the consequences. Bullshit. Elena's voice was suddenly sharp, more alert than it had been moments ago. You saved this base. You saved my people. They can't prosecute you for that. They can prosecute me for whatever they want. I'm a civilian who engaged in combat operations without authorization. I issued orders over military communications. I used military weapons. Maya shrugged. Harrison made it very clear I violated multiple articles of military law. Reeves won't let that stand. Reeves doesn't have the authority to stop it. Elena was quiet for a moment. Then, I'll talk to them. I'll explain what happened. I'll make them understand. You'll rest and recover. Maya squeezed her sister's hand. Whatever happens, I'll handle it. That's not your responsibility. You're my sister. Everything about you is my responsibility. That's not how it works. That's exactly how it works. Elena's grip tightened. We made a pact. Remember, if one of us is shooting, the other is watching her back. That doesn't stop when the shooting stops. Maya didn't know what to say, so she just held her sister's hand and let the silence stretch between them. Outside, the sun had risen fully. The base was slowly returning to normal soldiers repairing damage, medics, treating wounded officers, coordinating logistics. The battle was over. The cleanup had begun. But for Maya and Elena Torres sitting in that small medical room, the real fight was just starting. 3 days passed. Maya spent them in a strange limbo. She wasn't under arrest, but she wasn't free either. Harrison had ordered her to remain on base pending the investigation. Her civilian status made things complicated. She couldn't be confined to quarters or formally charged without civilian legal proceedings, but she also couldn't leave. So she waited. Visited Elena. Answered questions from investigators who seemed more interested in finding someone to blame than understanding what had actually happened. On the 4th day, something changed. Maya was in Elena's room when Reeves appeared in the doorway. His face was unreadable. Miss Torres, there's someone here to see you. Harrison again? No, someone else. Reeves paused. Someone important. Maya followed him to the operations building, her mind racing through possibilities. A lawyer, a journalist, someone from the civilian authorities. The answer was none of those. The woman waiting in the briefing room was in her 60s, with silver hair cut short and eyes that seemed to see everything at once. She wore civilian clothes, expensive professional, but her bearing was unmistakably military. Miss Torres, the woman said, please sit. Maya sat. Reeves remained standing near the door, his expression suggesting he had no idea what was happening either. My name is Catherine Wells. I'm with the Defense Intelligence Directorate. The woman's voice was calm, measured. "I've been reading the classified reports about what happened here. I've read them several times, actually. And I'm impressed." Wells folded her hands on the table. 31 confirmed kills, tactical coordination that prevented a total collapse of defensive positions, an impossible shot at 850 meters that eliminated the enemy commander, and all of this from someone who hadn't fired a combat weapon in over 2 years. Maya said nothing. "I've also read Colonel Harrison's preliminary report," Wells continued. "He recommends criminal charges, violations of military law, civilian prosecution. I'm aware of his position." "His position is irrelevant." Wells leaned forward slightly. "I'm here to offer you an alternative." Maya's heart beat faster. "What kind of alternative? The kind that makes all of this go away. The investigation, the charges, everything." Wells paused. "In exchange for something." "What something?" "Your skills." Wells pulled a folder from her briefcase and slid it across the table. "There's a position opening at the Advanced Sniper Training School. Senior instructor. You'd be teaching the people who train the people who end up at bases like this one." Maya looked at the folder, but didn't touch it. And occasionally, when situations develop, situations like what happened here, you'd be available for deployment. Classified missions, no official record, but the kind of work that makes a difference. You want me to become an assassin. I want you to become what you already are. Wells's voice was quiet, but intense. "You're one of the best shooters I've ever seen. Not just technically, anyone can learn technique. You have something else. Instinct, judgment, the ability to read a battlefield and know exactly where to be, exactly when to shoot, exactly how to turn impossible situations into survivable ones." Maya was silent for a long moment. "Then, why me? There are hundreds of qualified snipers in the military. Why come to a civilian who's been pushing paper for 2 years? Because qualified snipers are common. What you did here, what you and your sister did together, that's rare." Wells stood. "Think about it. I'll be on base for another 12 hours. If you're interested, find me. If you're not..." She shrugged. "Then Harrison gets his prosecution, and you spend the next few years fighting legal battles instead of doing what you're actually good at." She walked to the door, then paused. "One more thing. If you accept, your sister could be part of this too. Not immediately, she needs to recover first. But eventually the two of you could work together again. Officially. Supported." Wells smiled slightly. "The Torres twins back in action. Think about what you could accomplish." She left. Maya sat alone in the briefing room, staring at the folder on the table. Reeves was still standing by the door, watching her with an expression she couldn't read. "Did you know about this?" she asked. "No. Wells contacted Theater Command yesterday. They told me to give her whatever she needed." Reeves moved closer. "What are you going to do?" Maya opened the folder. Inside were documents, contracts, security clearances, training schedules, a new life carefully laid out on government paper. "I don't know," she said honestly. "For what it's worth," Reeves said quietly. "I think you'd be good at it. Teaching, I mean. You have a gift for this work, and gifts like that shouldn't be wasted behind a desk. And the other part, the classified missions, that's your choice. Nobody can make it for you." Maya closed the folder and stood. "I need to talk to Elena." Elena was sitting up in bed when Maya returned, her leg elevated, a tablet in her hands. She was already reviewing after-action reports, trying to understand what had happened while she was unconscious. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Elena said. Maya sat down in her usual chair. "I've been offered a deal." She explained everything. Wells, the training position, the classified missions, the alternative to prosecution. Elena listened without interrupting her expression, growing more intense with each detail. When Maya finished, Elena was quiet for a long moment. "What do you want to do?" she finally asked. "I don't know. That's why I'm asking you." "Why does my opinion matter? Because you're my sister. Because Wells mentioned you could be part of this eventually. Because whatever I decide affects both of us." Elena set down her tablet and looked at Maya directly. "Do you remember what you said to me when you first got here? You said you were going crazy behind a desk. You said you kept having nightmares about places like this." "I remember. Those nightmares stopped, didn't they? After the battle." Maya hesitated. It was true. For the first time in months, she'd slept without dreaming of blood and snow and targets she couldn't reach. "This is who you are, Maya. This is who we both are." Elena's voice was firm. "Dad trained us for this. We enlisted for this. We spent our whole lives becoming the best at what we do. And then you walked away because... Why? Because you were scared." "I wasn't scared. I was tired." "Same thing." Elena reached out and took Maya's hand. "Take the deal. Not because of the prosecution that's just leverage. Take it because it's right. Because you're good at this. Because there are people out there who need someone like you watching their backs." Maya felt tears pricking at her eyes. She blinked them away. "What about you?" she asked. "If I take this, I'll be gone most of the time. Training, missions. We won't see each other. We haven't seen each other in 18 months anyway." Elena smiled slightly. "At least this way I'll know you're doing something that matters. And eventually when my leg heals, maybe I'll join you. We could be a team again, like the old days." Maya looked at her sister, her twin, her other half, the person who knew her better than anyone in the world. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." Elena squeezed her hand. "Take the deal, Maya. Take it, and don't look back." Maya squeezed back. "Okay," she said. "Okay." She walked to the door, then paused. "Elena. Yeah. Thank you for everything." Elena smiled. That same smile she'd had since they were kids, confident knowing unstoppable. "Just remember our pact," she said. "If one of us is shooting, the other is watching her back." "Always," Maya said. She walked out of the medical station and went to find Catherine Wells. 3 years later, Maya Torres stood at the window of her office at the Advanced Sniper Training School, watching the newest class of recruits struggle through their first long-range qualification. Most of them would fail. That was by design. The ones who passed would become the best shooters in the entire military. "Ma'am?" A young sergeant appeared in her doorway. "You have a call. Secure line." Maya nodded and walked to her desk. The phone was already blinking red, the indicator for classified communications. She picked up. "Torres? Ice, this is Control. We have a situation." Maya's blood ran cold. Control only called when something had gone very wrong. "Go ahead." "Forward operating base Sentinel-9. They're under attack. Communications were cut 20 minutes ago. Quick reaction force is 6 hours out." Maya closed her eyes. Sentinel-9. Elena's base. The same frozen hell they'd defended together 3 years ago. "What's the status?" "Unknown. Last transmission indicated coordinated assault from multiple directions. Estimated enemy strength 60 to 80 fighters. Possibly more. My sister is stationed there." "We know." Control's voice was carefully neutral. "That's why we're calling you." Maya gripped the phone tighter. "What do you need?" "A helicopter is waiting on the east pad. You'll be inserted 30 clicks from the base. From there, you make your way in and assess the situation. If rescue is possible, coordinate with surviving defenders. If not..." Control paused. "Use your judgment." "Understood." "Ice." One more thing. Control's voice softened slightly. Good luck. The line went dead. Maya grabbed her gear bag from the closet, the one she always kept packed, always kept ready. 3 years of waiting, 3 years of training others, 3 years of wondering when the call would come. Now it had. She ran to the helicopter pad. The bird was already spinning up rotors, cutting through the morning air. The pilot gave her a thumbs up as she climbed aboard. ETA 2 hours, he shouted over the noise. Weather's bad over the mountains. Might get rough. Just get me there. The helicopter lifted off, banking east toward the mountains. Maya closed her eyes and tried to control her breathing. Elena was out there. Elena was in danger. And this time Maya wouldn't arrive after the fighting was over. This time she'd arrive in the middle of it. The insertion point was a frozen clearing 30 kilometers from Sentinel-9. Maya hit the ground, running, her rifle slung across her back, her pack heavy with ammunition and supplies. The terrain was brutal. Snow up to her knees, wind cutting through her thermal gear, temperature dropping with every passing minute. But she kept moving, driven by something stronger than cold or exhaustion. Her sister was waiting. After 2 hours of hard travel, she reached the ridgeline overlooking the base. What she saw made her heart stop. Sentinel-9 was under siege. Fires burned in multiple locations. The perimeter wall had been breached in at least 3 places. Gunfire echoed across the valley, the sharp crack of rifles, the deeper boom of explosives, the screaming of wounded men. Maya pulled out her scope and scanned the battlefield. Enemy positions in the ruins to the east. More fighters advancing from the south. The base defenders were holding, but barely. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and running out of time. She searched for Elena. The crane on the east side, Elena's favorite overwatch position, was empty. The command building had taken a direct hit. The medical station was burning. Where was her sister? Then she saw it. A figure on the water tower, the same water tower Maya had used 3 years ago. The figure was firing steadily, methodically, holding back an entire assault team single-handed. Elena. Maya started moving again, faster now, pushing through the snow toward the base. She had to reach her sister, had to get into position, had to. Her radio crackled. A voice she hadn't heard in 3 years. Unknown contact approaching from the north. Identify yourself. Maya keyed her radio. Ice, coming in hot. Silence. Then, Maya. I'm here, Elena, I'm coming. How did you? Later, what's your status? Bad. We've lost half our defenders. Command is down. I'm the ranking officer. Elena's voice was strained but controlled. They're making a final push. If they breach the inner perimeter, it's over. Maya crested the ridge and saw the base spread out below her. The enemy was everywhere, pouring through gaps in the wall, advancing in coordinated squads, overwhelming the remaining defenders with sheer numbers. I need a position, Maya said. Somewhere with sight lines on the southern approach. The bell tower. They rebuilt it 2 years ago. It's the highest point on the base. I see it. Maya sprinted down the slope, using every piece of cover the terrain offered. Bullets cracked past her as enemy spotters picked up her movement. She didn't slow down. The perimeter was chaos. Defenders and attackers mixed together in close combat. Maya shot 2 enemies who tried to intercept her, then vaulted over a sandbag wall and kept running. The bell tower loomed ahead. She hit the ladder and climbed, muscles burning lungs, screaming for air. 50 feet up, 70, 100. She reached the platform and immediately took position. From here, she could see everything, the entire southern approach, the breach points in the wall, the desperate defenders fighting hand-to-hand in the snow. I'm in position, she transmitted. Copy. I've got the eastern approach. You take the south. Just like old times. Just like old times. Maya found her first target, an enemy squad leader directing an assault on the inner gate. She squeezed the trigger. He dropped. The assault faltered. Maya used the moment to pick off 2 more targets, then 3, then 4. "They're pulling back from the south," a new voice reported over the radio. One of the surviving defenders. "Someone's covering us from the bell tower." "That's my sister," Elena transmitted. "Hold your positions. We're going to end this." Maya and Elena worked the battlefield together just as they had 3 years ago. 2 rifles, 2 minds, 1 purpose. They created kill zones and safe corridors. They protected defenders and eliminated attackers. They turned an impossible situation into something survivable. But the enemy kept coming. "They're bringing up reinforcements," Elena reported. "Northeast sector, at least 30 fresh fighters." Maya swung her scope. She saw them, a fresh wave of attackers emerging from the ruins, moving with the discipline of professional soldiers. At their head was a tall figure in civilian clothes directing the assault by radio. The enemy commander. "I see him," Maya said. 900 meters, northeast." "That's too far, even for you." "Not if we fire together." Silence. Then Elena's voice, quiet but certain. "On your mark." Maya calculated the shot. 900 meters. Wind from the northwest at 15 knots. Temperature -18. The commander was moving, partially obscured, a nearly impossible target. But she'd made this shot before. 3 years ago, on this same battlefield, against this same kind of enemy. "Fire in 3, she said. 2, 1, now!" 2 rifles cracked simultaneously. 900 meters away, the enemy commander jerked and fell. The reinforcement wave stopped. Without leadership, without coordination, the attack began to fall apart. "All units, this is Torres," Elena's voice rang out over the radio. "Push forward, drive them back, now!" The defenders surged out of their positions, hitting the disorganized enemy with everything they had left. The fighting was brutal, close, desperate, but the momentum had shifted. The attackers were retreating. The siege was breaking. Maya kept shooting, covering the advance, eliminating anyone who tried to rally the enemy forces. Her rifle grew hot. Her shoulder ached, but she kept firing. 30 minutes later, it was over. The enemy was in full retreat, disappearing into the ruins, leaving their dead behind. The base was still standing. The defenders were still alive. Maya climbed down from the bell tower on shaking legs. Her body was running on pure adrenaline, her mind empty of everything except the need to find her sister. Elena was waiting at the base of the water tower. She was covered in soot and blood, her uniform torn, her face showing every hour of the battle she'd just survived. But she was standing. She was breathing. She was alive. They walked toward each other slowly, then faster, then running. They met in the middle of the compound and embraced, holding each other tightly, neither willing to let go. "You came," Elena whispered. "I promised I would. 3 years ago. You said if there was trouble, I said I'd make it work." Maya pulled back and looked at her sister. "Are you okay?" "I'm standing. That counts as okay." "How many did you lose?" Elena's expression tightened. 12. Maybe more. We won't know until we do a full count." 12 dead. 12 soldiers who wouldn't go home. 12 families who would receive visits from uniformed officers with carefully rehearsed words of condolence. "It could have been everyone," Maya said quietly. "It almost was." Elena wiped her face with a grimy hand. "If you hadn't shown up when you did?" "I know." They stood in silence, surrounded by the aftermath of battle. wounded soldiers being carried to medical, defensive positions being secured, the 1,000 small tasks that followed every firefight. A young officer approached a lieutenant Maya didn't recognize. "Captain Torres, ma'am. The quick reaction force is 30 minutes out. They're requesting a status report." "Tell them we held," Elena said. "Tell them we're still standing." "Yes, ma'am." The lieutenant hesitated. "Ma'am, who is this?" Elena looked at Maya and smiled. The same smile she'd had since they were kids, confident, knowing unstoppable. "This is my sister. She's a consultant. A consultant who just single-handedly broke the enemy assault from the bell tower. She's a very good consultant." The lieutenant shook his head and walked away, muttering something about the Torres twins. Elena turned back to Maya. "You know there's going to be another investigation, another colonel asking questions, another pile of paperwork. I know. And you came anyway. I'll always come." Maya took her sister's hand. "That's the deal. That's the pact. If one of us is shooting, the other is watching her back. Even when it means flying across a continent, even when it means risking your career, even when it means, even when." Maya squeezed her sister's hand. "Always." Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then, the training program, the one Wells mentioned 3 years ago, the one where we could work together. "What about it? I've been thinking about it, about what comes after this." Elena looked around at the damaged base, the weary soldiers, the snow-stained red with blood. "I can't do this forever. Neither can you. But together, maybe we could train others. Pass on what we know. The Torres twins teaching the next generation, something like that." Maya thought about it. 3 years of training recruits, of watching them grow from nervous beginners into confident professionals. 3 years of knowing that somewhere out there, the soldiers she'd taught were using her lessons to stay alive. "I'd like that," she said. "I'd like that a lot." Elena smiled. "Then let's make it happen. After the investigation, after the paperwork, after all the bullshit is finished. Deal." They shook hands, a formal gesture that somehow felt exactly right. 2 sisters. 2 soldiers. 2 women who had spent their lives mastering the art of the impossible. The helicopters arrived 20 minutes later. Fresh troops poured out, securing positions, establishing a new perimeter, doing all the things that should have been done hours ago. A general stepped off the command helicopter, the same Harrison who had tried to prosecute Maya 3 years ago. He looked older, grayer. His face showed the weight of decisions he'd made and decisions he regretted. "Captain Torres," he said, approaching Elena. "I'm glad you're alive." "Thank you, sir." Harrison's eyes moved to Maya. For a long moment, he just stared at her. "Miss Torres, I wasn't informed you'd be deployed." "It was a last-minute decision, sir." "Clearly." Harrison paused. "How many kills this time?" "I wasn't counting." "I was. My officers were watching from the ridge when they arrived. 27 confirmed, plus the command shot that broke their final assault." Harrison shook his head slowly. "I tried to prosecute you once. Did you know that I remember? I was wrong." And the word seemed to cost him something. "What you did 3 years ago, what you did today, that's not something that should be punished. That's something that should be celebrated." Maya didn't know what to say, so she said nothing. "There won't be an investigation this time," Harrison continued. "No questions, no paperwork. As far as the official record is concerned, the quick reaction force arrived and secured the base. That's all anyone needs to know." "Thank you, sir." Harrison nodded. "Just try not to make a habit of this. My heart can't take many more reports about the Torres twins defying the laws of probability." He walked away, shouting orders to his staff, taking control of the situation with the efficiency of a career officer. Maya watched him go, feeling something she hadn't expected. Respect. Maybe even gratitude. "Well," Elena said, "that was unexpected. People change. Do they?" Maya looked at her sister. "We did. 3 years ago, we were two broken soldiers trying to survive. Now we're something else. Something more." "What do you think we are?" Maya thought about it. About the night 3 years ago when everything changed. About the training she'd done, the recruits she'd taught, the lives she'd helped save from thousands of miles away. About flying across a continent without hesitation when her sister needed her. "We're what Dad always wanted us to be," she said finally. "We're protectors. We're teachers. We're the ones who hold the line when everyone else has given up." Elena nodded slowly. "I like that." "Me too." They stood together in the pale morning light, watching the base come back to life around them. Wounded being treated. Defenses being rebuilt. Soldiers doing the 1,000 small tasks that turned survival into normalcy. "So what happens now?" Elena asked. "Now we rest. We recover. We fill out whatever paperwork Harrison decides we need to fill out." Maya paused. "And then we start building something new. A training program, a legacy, something that will outlast both of us. The Torres twins' school for impossible situations. Something like that." Elena laughed. It was a real laugh, the first real laugh Maya had heard from her sister in years. "I missed you," Elena said. "I missed you too. Promise me something." "Anything. Promise me we won't wait another 3 years before we see each other. Promise me we'll make time. Phone calls, visits, something." Maya took her sister's hand. "I promise. And promise me one more thing." "What?" Elena's expression grew serious. "Promise me that if there's ever another situation like this, another impossible fight, another base under siege, another time when everything depends on someone being in the right place at the right time, promise me you'll come, no matter what." Maya looked at her sister, her twin, her other half, the person who knew her better than anyone in the world. "I'll always come," she said. "That's not a promise. That's just who I am. Who we are." Elena nodded. "Good." They stood in silence for a moment, two sisters who had been through hell together and come out the other side. Two women who had proven twice now that some obstacles couldn't stop them. That some situations, no matter how desperate, could be survived with the right skills, the right preparation, and the right person watching your back. "Come on," Maya finally said. "Let's get you to medical. You look like hell." "You should see yourself." "I'd rather not." They walked toward the medical station together, supporting each other, neither willing to let go. Behind them, the sun rose higher over the mountains, turning the snow from gray to gold. 6 months later, the Torres Advanced Tactical Training Program opened its doors. The first class had 12 students hand-picked from bases across the world, chosen for their potential, their dedication, their willingness to push beyond what they thought was possible. Maya and Elena taught together side by side, sharing everything they knew about survival, about shooting, about being in the right place at the right time when lives hung in the balance. On the wall of their office hung a single photograph, not the one from when they were 16, but a new one. 2 women in fatigues standing in front of a damaged bell tower, their arms around each other, their faces showing exhaustion and triumph in equal measure. Below the photograph, someone had mounted a small plaque. It read, "Defended by all, saved by 2." And below that, in smaller letters, "Torres twins, Sentinel 9. Never forgotten. Every morning, Maya looked at that photograph. Every morning she remembered what they'd been through, what they'd survived, what they'd become. And every morning she made the same promise to herself. If one of us is shooting, the other is watching her back. That was the truth. The only truth that mattered. Two sisters. One purpose. Forever.